Welcome to Truest Blood, the official True Blood podcast.
I'm Kristin Bauer.
And I'm Deborah Ann Wool.
And you've been invited in.
I want to do bad things with you. On Truest Blood.
Welcome back, everybody, to Truest Blood, where we sink our fangs into the series episode by episode.
Yay, we made it. Season 2, Kristin. I'm so excited.
No, we're back thanks to the fans.
Thank you to the fans, to HBO. You all are the reason that we were able to get a second season and continue to bring these episodes to you. We love doing them.
We love our cast and crew and directors and all these crazy people that let us interview them. Do they not know us, Deb?
I know. Well, I know who you are. You are Kristin Bauer, and you play the fantastically dry Pamela Swinford de Beaufort.
I sure do. And you know who you are. You are Deborah Ann Wool, and you play Baby Vamp Jessica.
I do. So we are just thrilled to jump into the season opener this week with Nothing But the Blood. It is written by Alex Wu and directed by Daniel Minahan.
In this episode, we meet some new friends, catch up with our old favorites, and find out if blood really is what binds us.
Speaking of blood, we're going to speak with the Stephen Moyer, my father, my maker, my daddy, if you will. And we spend a lot of time drinking blood this episode, he and I. So we'll speak with him later and find out what it's like to be Bill Compton.
Oh my gosh, I'm so thrilled about that. Well, folks, here we go again. This week on True Blood.
The infamous red-painted toenails sticking out of Detective Belfleur's car are officially identified as belonging to Miss Jeanette, the exorcist/con artist frequented by the Thornton women. But Renee Lanier is long dead, and there is the little matter of her heart having been torn out. It seems there is a new killer in Bon Temps, and Sookie's peaceful world is once again turned upside down.
Every time I think I know what's what, it turns out I don't know anything.
Tara comes clean about her relationship with the deceased, but the police aren't buying it until Letty Mae shows up at the station, distraught. After Tara is released, Marianne envelops her in a hug and has some venomous words for Letty Mae. Back at Marianne's mansion, all is hunky-dory until Carl, her butler, interrupts a romantic moment between Tara and Eggs by the pool, to which Marianne pitches quite the hissy fit.
Nobody needed towels.
The usually unflappable Sam appears fully flapped by the emergence of Marianne. Turns out, 15 years prior, he snuck into her house, was seduced by her, and ran off, stealing $100,000 in cash. With so much on his mind, he has little time for Sookie's drama.
I can't be whatever you want, whenever you want anymore. I'm tired of charring my ass on your back burner.
Across county lines, Jason has fallen under the spell of the Reverend Newland and wife. He receives the sign from God and hastily enrolls in their anti-vampire leadership retreat.
Bill has his hands full with his young progeny, Jessica. They spend the night learning the rules of the house and testing out different combinations of True Blood, much to Jessica's chagrin.
Less like ass in the A positive, but more like ass in the B negative.
Later that night, when Sookie confronts Bill about his murder of her uncle Bartlett, Bill gallantly declares his love and devotion to Sookie, who forgives him. Twice. Meanwhile, chained up in a mysterious basement is a barely living Lafayette. He watches in horror as another captive is eviscerated by one Eric Northman.
So I think as we jump into the highlights of this episode, Kristin, the first really big, exciting reveal is that Lafayette is alive.
OMG.
He's not doing great, but he's alive.
Yeah, technically, he's alive. And this is a big thing because in the books, he is killed. Yes. But we talked about Alan last season, talked about how they just couldn't kill Nelson Ellis. Like this actor, this character just had to stay around.
Yes.
So this is big news.
Big news. We're sad to lose Aisha Hines, who played Miss Jeanette. Yes. So of course that's a tough go. But it is so exciting to see Lafayette. But he's in a tough spot there. It's this mysterious basement. We don't know where it is yet. They're I
mean, is that the creepiest set that was ever built?
And the music, I want to give credit to Nathan as well.
Oh,
the music underneath that, it's almost like creaky submarine ambiance. He did such a good job giving it. That feeling.
That's a good point. The submarine, you really feel like you're deep in the, under earth, underwater. Yes. Yeah, and we call it the Saw Room, I guess, after the Saw movies.
For obvious connections there.
Right. Yep.
I remember that room, because it was, we shall find out that it is the Fantasia basement. So we've all spent a little time in there, and it is not a terribly pleasant space to work in.
It isn't. I've had a lot of experiences there. They're coming back to me as I think about this. I've had some funny ones. I got to say some great dialogue down there. I had a scene with you down there. All right. We've got a lot coming up in future seasons.
And then it's so fascinating. They bring Royce in, our favorite redneck vampire killer. And it's interesting to have like enemies in a way sort of brought into on the same level here.
It is.
And have that conversation. They have a very funny, interesting conversation down there.
They have the funniest dialogue between the two of them where he's confessing, what did he pee in his boss's drink?
Yes.
Once. And then he's the AIDS-burger jerk.
Yeah.
Right? So how funny that comes full circle. And he apologizes. And then he says, by the way, I'm sorry. I mean, I did let my roommate blow me in college.
It's just, being in these situations and what it causes people to say and share and rethink about their lives.
Enemies bonding.
Yes.
I mean, it's like when we go to the final network audition as actresses and they stick us together very often. And, you're clinging to it. You should be rivals, but you're not. Right. You're practically holding hands and you leave their best friends because it was such a traumatic experience, you know?
Well,
so they bond.
It's interesting because then, there's this vicious killing by Eric Northman at the end. I mean, it may be the most vicious thing we've seen so far.
Yes.
But we have to hate Royce enough for that to be a satisfying moment. And so they did a good job of balancing that, of giving him some humanity at the very end, but also reminding you that like, there's a reason he's down here.
It is interesting that he really eviscerates him and we don't hate Eric for it.
We don't hate Eric.
We don't. It's pretty, well, and I'm very biased, so I can't say, but I'm so biased. But it is a great killing.
Well, and it pays off that moment with Eric and Merlot's when he says, when you all go down there and he says, we know what you all have done.
We know.
And so now, we really see that he is the sheriff of area, I want to say 51, but that's not it, right?
Yeah, right. 50
something. Yeah. 50, he's not the sheriff of Area 51. That's a different show.
That's when the True Blood reboot.
Yes.
Yeah, and they make Royce do something stupid where he silvers him. He shoves the cross in his cheek, right? But also a nod to the writer in this episode, because he comes down in the foils and his hair, right? Which could make him not intimidating, but it doesn't, because it's Alex. And then the way he rips off that silly smock we all have on when we get our hair done, he really does this like, he grabs it on each shoulder and pulls it off like dramatically. Yeah. That killing is fabulous.
It looks like
from start to finish.
Chippendale, he's just like, sure,
right.
God,
right, totally.
Snaps snapwear, kind of tearaway clothes.
That's it.
Yeah,
That is it.
When it's this wonderful moment too of like, what are they doing? Like, it's such a clear look, and we'll talk about it more next episode when we reveal what that is.
Yeah.
But it sets it up perfectly. He was in the middle of something.
He was in the middle of something. He was in the middle of something.
So he's especially angry. But it's a great, it's a great stunt finish for him. We weren't there, so we don't know exactly how it was done. But I'm going to guess, the actor on a wire of some sort. I'm going to guess potentially a dummy or some pieces of a dummy for Alex to play with. Hopefully Alex will tell us more when we get to speak with him.
Yep. Alex didn't really rip apart the actor. There's some sort of special effects going on. That actor is alive and well, everyone. Don't worry.
That no humans were harmed in the making of this TV show. And then we end with big splashes of blood across Lafayette's face.
Oh, that is so good.
He's in trouble. It ends thinking, poor Lafayette.
He's in trouble.
So another big highlight from this episode is that we meet the Newlands.
We meet the
We
Newlands.
have so far only seen Steve on TV, and now we go behind the scenes and we meet his wife and get a little bit of a sense of their life together.
She's so good. We get her whole character, watching her at the monitor, and then immediately he's like, any notes? You know, so good. I love that relationship.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, even her saying, you sounded too much like a preacher and we have political aspirations,
Right? You could be governor.
Yeah, you could start to see these are ambitious. This is an ambitious couple, and that she is just as much as he is. He just gets to be the face, which is really, I think on the money for that story.
On the money.
Yeah. Speaking of money, they then ask Jason to pay to come to the leadership conference. And again, it's right in line with that idea of salvation should be free, but no, you have to pony up.
But no. Yeah. And the way that he puts his hand on Jason's face, and Jason has that come to Jesus moment, and he says, may God's light shine upon you. And it really does. God's light shines upon Jason Stackhouse for a moment.
It does.
Ryan just plays that. I'm in. I believe it. And you're like, oh boy, this is how it happens.
And I want to talk about this later too, especially with Jason. But, we talk about with Eddie, Jason is lacking this positive male role model in his life. And I think, he's so easily swayed to these different points of view. He was by Amy, now he is by the Newlands. And it's such a fascinating facet of Jason's personality.
It is. He is lost.
Poor guy.
And then we have the big flashbacks are always a thing, right? For actors to find out your backstory, So we have Sam's flashback. And we learn how he knows, that Marianne is a force to be reckoned with.
What are you? Baby boy, you're not the only one who's special in this world.
Oh, Michelle Forbes. I mean, just wait till we interview her this season. My God, she's so frightening.
My God. She is so unbelievably powerful and charismatic. Her performance every second of this entire season blows me away.
Yeah. And it's just so perfect to do these flashbacks, to see Sam's origin, that he, Sam is the quote unquote good guy, but we see that he's done some pretty bad shit in his past, but also suffered quite a bit, the abandonment of his family. And then, Marianne kind of takes what she wants from him as well. And of course, it's super creepy that she looks exactly the same.
Yeah, we start to get a glimpse that she may be another possibly almost immortal creature.
Yeah. And then I think the really biggest, most anticipated moment of this episode is, of course, the very end where Bill and Sookie, absolutely, they're just gluttons for drama. They just love a good fight. But holy crap, did Alex Wu give Bill a speech?
Oh, holy crap.
Sookie, cannot, and I will not lose you. For all the ways I have dismayed, aggrieved, or failed you, I swear I will atone. But I am not sorry. I refuse to apologize for what you have awakened in me. You are my miracle, Sookie. For the first time in 140 years, I felt something I thought had been lost to me forever. I love you. And for that, I shall never feel sorry.
God damn you, Bill Compton. I love you.
Boy, does that just quiver through you in all the right places?
I mean, as someone who has ovaries,
Yeah.
like, so what? He killed my uncle. My uncle was a dick, I mean, so what if he killed that girl? She's not really dead, the vampire Jessica. You know what I mean? I mean, I could forgive so much with that speech, and he delivers it beautifully.
Yeah.
And Anna we just see how we're all her in that
Yeah.
moment, right?
Well,
It's a beautiful
speech. And there's something interesting too. Earlier on in the episode, she has a moment where she says, is there, she finds out about Jessica. She says, is there anything else you're hiding from me? And Steve
Right.
Moyer does the greatest line reading of all time
He does a pause.
and says nothing.
No, nothing.
But of course, book readers, as well as those of you that know the rest of this series, know that Bill indeed has a very big secret that he is keeping from Sookie. And, now knowing that and watching this series colors all of these moments a little more vividly.
It does.
So if you don't know, please, don't read ahead. Wait and get the get the spoiler at the right time. But for those of you who do, it's really fun to watch this and see that Steven, as a brilliant actor, is layering in this great subtext in every single moment.
It is really fun to rewatch because it's kind of like, when you rewatch The Sixth Sense, you're like, oh, now that you're
Look
like,
at
wow,
these
this
hints
really
and
does
these
kind of hold
clues.
together. Yeah. And I feel like that with this show, the writing is so good and so smart, and the actors are all incredible. To go back and go, oh my gosh, that moment really is artful.
Well, and also that the writers and Alan shared with us, that Steve knew what his subtext was, and he could, even in as early as the first season, begin to support all of his choices with this story, and that they trusted us to be able to do that in a really organic way. Yeah. So a couple of interesting things. There's that really wonderful vamp shot as Sookie, waits for him to respond and he doesn't, and he vamps to stop her at the door.
Such good use of vamp speed.
Well, that is also a body double shot. So you're going to notice,
I didn't know
you'll
that.
notice a bunch of those throughout the show. And, I encourage, viewers as you're watching, see if you can spot them. You see Sookie and you see the back of Bill Compton as she passes him and Bill is out of frame. Then he, zips in front of her with the vamp speed. And so that is going to be his stunt double or his stand-in or body double. That is the back of him, so that he can just be right off camera where he needs to be and zip in at the last minute. Steve Moyer.
Oh, I didn't notice that. See, now I'm going to have to watch it again.
So we use that trick a lot.
Really well done.
Yeah. In fact, they used it in the first season with Lorena. In the cabin they had used, she had done that same trick.
Oh,
so
right.
He learned it from his maker.
Right.
And then,
good eye, Deb.
Yeah, well, I get really excited about this stuff. And so then the end. Yeah, the end of it. The end of this is this beautiful, passionate love scene for Bill and Sookie. It's so artfully and well shot. The lighting is so soft and it's sexy and beautiful. But it's really beautiful. I think it's a great example of a storytelling love scene rather than strictly voyeuristic. There are close-ups on hands and backs as much as anything else. And I love that it's about catering to their desires, not ours, right? This is about capturing how much they love each other and how much they're connected, not about what we see or our, desire to see them.
That's a really good point, because it is consummating saying, I love you.
And, they're both so
super sweet.
Connected for some obvious reasons. So I'm sure, I'd be curious to hear what the difference, because we're so, as we get deeper into it, I'd love to have some conversations about intimacy on set and what that looks like and how that's done. And we'll get to that, but it must be an even sort of more specific experience with your partner.
Right? I know. I'm very curious about that.
Yeah. But they are lovely, and it is lovely shot. And one interesting thing to note as we move into the next episode, there's, you'll see in episode 2, there's this afterglow moment that Bill and Sookie have. That was filmed directly after they shot the love scene. That they brought in the next director and did it on the same day so that it would all sort of, the energy level would be there. And so sometimes that'll happen. You'll shoot the last scene and the first scene of an episode kind of on the same day.
Yeah, that's such a luxury.
Ooh,
that's such a nice.
It is nice when you can do it.
Yeah, 2 lovely directors. We go from Dan Minahan to Michael Lehman.
Yeah.
Really sensitive, beautiful guys.
I just on a personal note, I'll say it is very funny to me that they completely forget about Jessica in the house and just rip each other's clothes off. And just they acknowledge it coming up, but I always have that moment where I'm like, man, I'm just downstairs.
I mean, vampires have very good hearing.
Yes, we do.
Because as a human, you're 3 floors away because you're down in the dirt. Yeah. Right? Well, no, he sent you to the cubby?
I think that's where I'm living right now. Yeah, as in the cubby.
Yeah.
Man. But also I'm just like,
it's so
apparently
weird.
I'm this dangerous teenager that should be watched at all times, and they're really distracted.
Yeah. There are some things I noticed this season that I will have fun pointing out where I'm like, yeah, because there starts to be some things that I didn't really see in the first season where the actors kind of do something a little silly or inconsistent to make the story go where it has to go.
You
right. So
you jump on board.
Yeah. So it's like, Jessica, we'll get to hang tomorrow night.
We'll deal with your impulsivity.
I just want to talk to my boyfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she goes, oh, okay.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
I know. I was so absorbed in the whole thing, I didn't notice. So I guess that's what they're counting on with the audience, right?
We'll be so absorbed and distracted by Bill and Sookie's love that we won't worry about Jessica for a moment.
Where's their kid? Where's their deadly killer kid?
Who was very well a suspect for the Miss Jeanette killing at this point.
Oh, that was another great Moyer take where he says, no, most likely not, or whatever, how he says it. Yeah. Could it have been Jessica? No, probably not. His turn. Oh, so good. All right. And now for a quick bite. A month in the life of Sookie Stackhouse.
The True Blood writer sure can pack a wallop into 4.5 weeks of story time. In week 1 alone, Sookie discovered 2 dead bodies, her brother was arrested twice, and she met her first vampire, whom she dated, broke up with, got back together, and broke up with once more before going out with her boss.
In week 2, she buried her beloved Gran, lost her virginity, and got bit for the first time. Then she believed her beau to have been murdered, then not, got drenched in vampire goo, and found her cat murdered instead. And if all of that were not enough, she also learned of the existence of shapeshifters.
But the first half of week 3 is the real doozy. Before the end of the day on Wednesday, she had solved a murder case, been viciously attacked by her friend's fiancé, murdered him, and switched up beaus twice more. Finally, after all that, Sookie gets 2 weeks of well-deserved peace.
Now it's a new month and a new Sookie. Her wounds are finally healing, and she and her vampire boyfriend have gone a full 14 days without breaking up. But oh no, there's no rest for the wicked as season 2 picks up speed.
So looking at this episode, it's interesting. It seems like a lot of the characters are sort of searching for belonging, searching for family of some kind. They've been distanced from their blood relatives and are having to navigate new relationships, kind of for better or worse. So it was an interesting theme that sort of pulled through a couple of the sort of main characters in the show. You know, and I first think certainly Bill and Jess fit into that category.
Hugely.
You know, so even though we're not a huge part of the episode, you know, Jessica has no family. She is this new creature, and she's now living with this sort of self-hating vampire who doesn't really want her to be like him.
Right.
And they're kind of stuck with each other and having to make the best of it.
Oh my gosh, those scenes where he's trying to be a dad and he's so square.
Dad Bill is so funny.
Dad Bill is so brilliant and so funny. I mean, of course, I love that he's like, here's the recycling, which is Stephen Moyer too.
Yeah.
You know, he fought for recycling on the set and finally got it.
He did. Yeah, but it's interesting because especially Jessica and where she's coming from. And at this point, we only know a very little about her family life, but it's just built into her to push back against authority at this point. And we do get the sense, even though we'll get into it deeper, that as a new vampire, there's some impulse control. But he's just sort of assuming that she's a brat rather than trying to look any deeper, which I think is eventually going to bite him in the butt.
Yeah, and Sookie helps him kind of realize, you know, coming up. And also we do find out more about Jessica's family coming up in this season. And yeah, their relationship is wonderful, and how she just wants to be with Eric having fun. You know, what does she say? Like, Eric let me feed on a tattooed biker or something.
Yeah. Eric and Pam are definitely more fun. That's for sure. But, you know, Jessica probably does need a Bill. She just, you know,
she just
needs someone who's going to love her and support her rather than control her. I think we find out that Dad from home controlled, and if Bill comes from a control angle, he's going to fail. So it's a great setup, I think, for the rest of the season.
You're really on to something here, Deb. You're so good at pulling these themes of this found family concept, because Tara, Marianne, Eggs, you know, they're all lost.
Yeah. All the characters are searching for people that they can connect to.
Huge.
So, you know, I mean, here's Tara, who has never been supported and never felt secure with her blood family, her mother. And here she is at Marianne's, where everything is done for her.
Yes.
She's got this dreamy guy that she's living with. And then, there's this incredible moment. And, you know, we spoke with Michelle Forbes about it, so we'll hear more from her. But where Marianne just cuts to the core of Letty May.
Laser precise.
Ooh.
I've always wondered what it would be like to gaze into the eyes of someone so devoid of human compassion that she would abandon her own child when she needed you most.
It's such a great moment, and it teeters on that perfect balance of like, it's true,
right?
Which it sounds like then she's standing up for Tara, but it also feels like she's hurting someone that Tara loves. And so is it an act of generosity or not? It's that perfect Marianne. I don't know.
It's just perfect enough that Tara goes with her because someone's standing up for her, and then she puts her arm around her and just leads her away and says, let's go home.
Yeah, she says that. That's right.
Right? Yeah.
But it's creepy, right? I mean, it's creepy that she's sort of taking Tara away from her family, her blood, her roots. And I like that Tara's spidey senses tingle for that she's not completely swayed by Marianne. She's let her guard down, but not her gut, I think, which is
true.
You know, good on you, Tara, you know, for that.
Yeah, good on you. Because then she does start questioning more. And asking Eggs and back at the mansion wondering. And so she's still got her street smarts. This theme, though, is really, I'm thinking about all the characters, what we find out about Pam, you know, Bill moving back to Bontom, you know, he's looking to belong somewhere.
Absolutely.
Sookie, Jason, it really is a big theme.
Yeah.
That's a doozy.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, it's a theme of not only life and art, you know, in total, but yeah, in this one, it's sort of a nice specific highlight. I think we even see it with Jason and the Light of Day Institute. And you know, we mentioned before, you know, he's reeling with this guilt and this grief over Gran, Amy. Things are still weird with Sookie over Eddie. What happened there? And now his uncle dies. I mean, his blood relatives are literally dropping.
Right. In like 3 weeks.
You know what I mean? As we have determined. It has been a rough month for Jason Stackhouse. It's been
a challenging month.
Let's see, 2 women he slept with died. 3 women he slept with died.
Right.
Oh my goodness, Jason Stackhouse.
Oh my gosh. Right. He thought he was the killer. I mean, he's also.
How would you ever have sex again?
Right. He gets right. These people are resilient. These Stackhouses, they get right back in the saddle.
Yeah, they are tough folk.
And this is on the foundation of Jason losing his parents
as well.
Right? So he's a lost figure.
He's a lost soul. And I think, again, making sure that is his foundation is why, despite all of the many, many mistakes that Jason makes, we still root for him. You know, and of course, Ryan's performance, you know, those things combined, we want good things for him.
We do. We love him.
It's so fascinating. This, you know, I think when we're feeling guilt and we're feeling grief, it's so much easier to surrender those decisions to God than to actually have to face the fact that you made some bad decisions. Right. You know, God forgives everything, but our conscience and our loved ones, not necessarily so quickly. So I think, you know, in a way, this is an easier path for him to go, to sort of follow these zealots and let them make his decisions for him so that he doesn't have to feel so responsible. And that is a very complex feeling for someone like Jason.
Yeah, there's a lot of complexities, and we don't get the impression that Jason is equipped for complexities. And so the fact that, like, he said, pray on it, and the money came in, and this just feels so clear and so right. And, you know, religion can do that for us,
and
you know.
Jason has been reading, which is a new habit for Jason.
What?
I've been reading your father's book, and it's really making me, think about things.
I know.
His delivery. Again, the pauses. So much of these great actors, like in the pauses, is everything.
Wow.
The ...
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, it's just the greatest.
I know. He's enamored with Steve Newlands.
You know, we talked about that lingering hand and just Jason needing, you know, he needs someone to look up to. And why not Steve Newland? You know, this is charismatic. He's on TV. He's famous, and he seems peaceful and happy. And I think in his heart, like all of us, that's really what Jason wants.
And now I am so thrilled to introduce the man who needs no introduction. He is, well, just frickin' Stephen Moyer, damn it.
You will know him best, of course, as Bill Compton on True Blood, one of our dearest friends and one of the loveliest people we've ever known. I think I can say for both of us. He's also done ridiculous amounts of theater. He is a singer, a dancer, a musician.
Yeah, he's been in a billion movies. He's just Stephen.
Hello.
Oh no, I'm crying.
Are you crying already, you idiot?
I'm crying. I started crying before we were recording. Are you kidding?
As soon as your face popped on the screen, I was like, I'm not going to make it through this interview.
Oh, don't start me off. I'll be useless.
Oh dear, and Deb really doesn't cry.
I don't cry as much as Kristin does. I cry plenty, but specifically, I think, Steve, you bring out the gushiness in me.
Look, it's so weird because I was telling Kristin via text. Yeah. I remember so little. It's almost comic. And so today I watched all of us, do there's a season 2 catch up where we describe that we actually did, right? And it's so fucking nuts. The show is so nuts. As you're listening to this stuff being like coming out, you're just like, hang on, I don't remember. Who is that?
Oh, yeah.
Who are these people? And I have to also add at this point as well that I have season 2 hair at the moment.
You do?
Oh my gosh!
You do.
Yeah.
That's right.
And,
Very season 2
and
hair.
I haven't had season 2 hair, well, since season 2, but my hair is not so dark anymore. It's quite grey. And I'm doing something where I'm playing a character, and he looks like Bill, but with a tan. Thank God.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
But this is, I mean, we've been looking forward to speaking with you.
Oh, me too, guys.
Since through the first season and into this, and there's so much, of course, to talk to you about with over 7 seasons, but...
Well, you know, we always start with, how did you get the role? How did it start?
Well, I think it is an interesting story. I'd been going back and forward for many years to America to do stuff, but I was also working in England a lot. And I had just done this TV show in Australia, and I had just arrived back in the UK, and I'd been away for like 4 or 5 months. And I did this tape. I got flown over to LA, and I got the lead in what would have been a 24 style show. It was by the same creators, it was the same production team, and it was playing a kind of Jack Bauer role. And basically, long story short, the table read was a disaster. The writer came up to me and I said, and by the way, I'd had to do a screen test. This is quite an important part of the story. I'd had to do a screen test in the 24 stages. I had done my screen test for the role in the Oval Office of the White House for 24.
Oh my gosh.
And at the end, the director and the person who was reading with me and a couple of other people that were there sort of stood up and clapped, or they clapped.
Wow.
And people, I think, who were sort of around felt like they should clap because they were there and they were just standing there waiting for me to finish my audition. So cut to the table read. The table read, which I'm not going to go into why, but it didn't work.
Perfect.
And what was an hour pilot ended up being 27 minutes.
Oh,
and
no.
I get in the car and I leave, and my agents and people, everybody rings up and says, "How was it?" And I said, "It was 27 minutes, and no one's going to survive. We're not going to be making this pilot. I will be fired." And my guys were like, "Don't be ridiculous. That's crazy. This is no way." And sure enough, everybody was let go, including the casting directors, I mean, literally everybody.
Yeah.
By somebody who was high up, whose name I won't mention.
That's what they do. That's what the networks do. They just napalm it and then rebuild.
Yes.
It's crazy.
So I go back to England and I say to my team, I'm not coming back. This system is ridiculous. Wow. The process is just stupid. And I'm not doing it anymore. But what happens is the casting directors were so upset about what happened that they leaked to the rest of the casting directors that casting season my tape that I had done in the Oval Office.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but it starts getting around all of these offices that this guy who had got a standing ovation when he did his...
crew.
From crew. When he did his casting, there was a bunch of people
really
there. Honey, and my manager is like, "Honey, you got a standing ovation. Everybody's talking about it." And and I start getting all these things and all these offers to say, "Come back. There's offers coming in based on that tape." And because at this point I had said no. I'm like, no. I'm not doing it. I'm done. I've told you I'm not coming back. I live in England. I'm just fine. I'm not coming back. And then finally, about 2 weeks later, she was screaming at me by now because there'd been quite a few sort of interesting things come through. She said, "Okay, this is the last one. I will leave you alone after this. but they are looking for this role. Alan Ball has seen that little tape that you did, and he wants to see you for this role. And I was like, oh, what is it? Wow. So she sent it to me. I read it that night. I went in the next morning, put it on tape with Nina Gold, who is a brilliant casting director.
Yeah.
And 24 hours later, I was sitting opposite Anna in Alan's office.
Oh my gosh.
And I have to say, because people always ask me, and I don't know what you guys feel about this, but when I read that pilot, people always say, did you know? Mm-hmm. I would still say, like, it's one of the 5 great scripts I've ever read.
Yeah.
Because there was this world.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a great sort of page-turning story. Alan had created a world that was alive on the page of this place called Bontemps, and the heat and the stickiness and this sort of strange netherworld that was so parallel to our own and so real. Mm-hmm. And I don't think I'd ever sort of found that, where I was just like, oh my God, I don't know what this is, but this is something.
So you're in a room with Anna and Alan, right?
On the lot.
2 Hollywood powerhouses.
Yes. On the lot as well.
On the lot, yes.
Which interestingly, we ended up at. We didn't start at, as you may remember, the first season.
Yes.
But we actually did end up right outside Alan's office for the next 7 years. And I'd just come back from Australia, and I was playing this tan beach bum with blonde bleached hair, kind of like Jason, kind of bleachy blonde, spiky hair and tanned. And Anna was herself, like this porcelain with raven hair.
Yeah.
When I meet her.
Oh my gosh.
So when we meet,
she was Bill and you were Sookie.
Yes,
basically.
exactly. She was Bill and I was Sookie. I was this lovely little girl coming there.
You were tan, blonde.
Tan and blonde.
Thought about your outfit. Yeah.
And underneath I had a polka dot swimsuit on,
Of course.
So did you just have that one reading that day?
So we did that reading.
With Alan.
Alan gave us a couple of notes, which we worked through. I think we improvised a bit as well. It was fascinating because I loved him immediately. Wow. I just loved him.
Yeah.
And then on the Monday, we met back up again at HBO at the building. And I went in and did it in front of a whole theatre of people. I remember thinking, at this point, and you guys will know as actors, at this point, I had given it away, right? Because I had said, I'm not coming back. I'm done. I'm really happy with my career in England. I don't need this anymore. I'm not doing this transatlantic thing anymore. Because I'd let it go. It didn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
So no, that day I felt absolutely fine. I was like, we did a good audition. Yeah. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I really like this girl that I'm working with. She's amazing, woman. She's amazing, and I'd really like to work with her more. And afterwards, we sort of sat around for 20 minutes talking. And then eventually they said, Anna, you can go. And I stayed in the room. And about 20 minutes later, they came and said, Stephen, you can go. And as I walked out of the HBO steps, I sort of waved goodbye to the casting directors. It was Junie. And I started walking down the stairs, and I just turned around and I went, that was okay, wasn't it? And she went, yes. And I went, oh.
She gave you 2 thumbs up.
She gave me the 2 thumbs up.
So Alan Ball actually mentioned when he was talking about the casting of Bill that they had looked long and hard for someone, and that you kind of, like he said, he saw a video, you kind of sprung into his life at the right moment, and that part of what he was missing in a lot of the auditions was that sense of history, that sense of someone who has seen so much and remembers so much. And I do think the United States, being a younger country, doesn't have that same necessarily connection that perhaps a European would have. And I think that for Alan, he saw that in your performance in that. So I'm curious, having this theater background. Now, the other thing Alan talks about is how many playwrights he hired, how many theater actors he hired. Same me, when I graduated from college, all I was going to do was theater, and then this TV show fell in my lap, you know? So I'm always so curious to hear from our different theater actors why they think that's helpful, or was it something that they utilized? And especially coming from you, because we think of you as a film director. You have a director's eye as well. So it's this wonderful combination.
So today I watched the finale of season 1 and the first episode of season 2. And
oh boy.
Oh my God, the performances. Because our world is a heightened world.
Yeah.
And you're just looking at this cast, just going, fuck, man.
I know.
And so not only did he hire theatre actors, but he also hired playwrights. And I've often quoted Alan, because when I did start directing the show, I realized that how massive the job is of showrunner and how massive the jobs were of all the props artists and the prop makers and the creators and the lighting guys and all of that and the riggers and what they're ordering and all of those things. And Alan hires the best people that he can possibly get.
All of it, it's so interesting because you are a singer, dancer, actor, director, but you're good at all of it. Right? Like I could say I do those things too, but you know the reality of, the image in my head is not the image that would be in all of your heads. But it makes me think of so many questions. But one is these flashbacks you do with Lorraine on season 2 are just cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. I mean, they're absolutely so stunning.
It was so fun.
Well, and they're little playlets. I think
they're playlets, right?
These
they're
little
like
playlets, these little two-handers. They're
so
incredible.
Beautiful, and that's you really singing and playing.
Yes, but you guys...
But was that in the script, you singing at the piano?
Yeah, and because Bucky wrote that episode and he had found out that he knew that I sang and he knew that I played the piano. There was a piano in Merlotte's, maybe an upright, and I used to go and play it at lunchtime. And I think Alan had actually come in one day because the studio usually got closed, everybody would walk away to lunch.
Right.
And that was really great for me because it meant I could go to Merlotte's or maybe it was in Sookie's house. It was in Sookie's house.
Yeah.
And I think Alan heard me playing and then put the B in Bucky's ear. But what was lovely about that as well was that I then got to form a relationship with Nathan Barr, who our amazing composer. And because I had a relationship with Nathan, because I'd gone up to his Topanga home to sort of learn that bit of music, Hard-Hearted Hannah, and to get the sheet music, to work out exactly how they wanted me to play it and how they wanted me to sing it. And he's such a good friend, and he's so talented.
Gosh.
Wow.
And the score is so beautiful. Yeah, so that was really like one of those things, Kristin, where like I met somebody that during that time, and when I started directing, he actually would ask me what I wanted sounds to sound like, what I wanted when you were directing this moment, what were you thinking? So I got a little sort of in that some of the visiting directors wouldn't have had.
Right. Oh, that's fascinating. And that's interesting coming after having spent so many years on one side of it, because that's, I think, part of what Kristin and I are experiencing doing this podcast and speaking with so many members of the crew and our production staff and other actors in their processes, is this, you always sort of live in your bubble and do your work. And I mean, I was so curious, what is it like to work for 7 years with your partner?
And you've continued to.
On something like this, of what you can share or want to share. I mean, that must be such a unique experience.
I honestly can't imagine it. I was watching her today, just loving her so much and being so amazed by her and remembering that early joy of what it felt like when we were starting this crazy ball rolling. And I just remember that feeling so well of feeling so lucky and having found my soulmate and being able to not only just be with her at work, but at home as well.
So true.
There is a shorthand that we have.
Yeah.
We make each other laugh. But we also sort of, I don't know, it's just, it just works so well. It just felt always so natural. And as you know, guys, we did keep it from everybody for quite a long time. I remember, I think it was episode 10 of season 1. And people were starting to find out, because me and Anna were living together by now. And people, we'd been living together since like after the pilot. Obviously, at some point, the scripts started going to the same place. So the inside office had worked it out. But we hadn't told anybody at work. And I remember there was some sign writing happening outside the studio. And I was with Sam, and we were looking up at the sky watching this thing. And I said, Sam, there's something I kind of need to tell you. And he was like, yeah, what's up? And I said, look, I feel bad about this, but I didn't want to ruin everybody's life. We desperately didn't want to ruin everybody's...
Right.
Like, 'cause if this didn't work, what do you... And he was like, Steve, what are you talking about? And I said, me and Anna are together and we live together. And Sam was like, his mind was so blown, he couldn't believe it. He could not believe that he hadn't noticed. He couldn't believe that he had no idea. And then Ryan was the last person I told. And he was shocked.
Oh, boy.
So, yeah, it was just one of those things where the last thing you want a couple to do, or the leading couple to do, is get together
the two leads,
and then have this chemistry thing that then goes and they screaming at each other for the next 5 seasons. And so we were really, really aware that we did not want to ruin people's experience. You know, if this turned out to be the sort of job that everybody's been waiting for that lasts for years, you know.
Well, you guys really were interesting and wonderful because you had parties at your house every year. Everybody was included.
You did feel like the Den parents, I think.
Yeah. I might segue because I just realized, like, this is your daddy. Like, there was a comment that you talked about in the commentary, Stephen, about Deborah got some sort of direction that was to be more put upon and sort of like, I lost my life, you know, more vulnerable maybe. And then all of a sudden in the take, you're like, oh my gosh, you had such paternal feelings for her.
Yeah.
It was so sweet. And you said, in my opinion, Deb can do no wrong. No. So and I was like, wow, because of course you and I Pam and Bill had a different fun relationship where we just annoyed each other, which I loved. But you, right? But you and
just
Deb
had so much fun. No, I think anybody who's read the books will know it isn't Bill that kills Long Shadow in the books. But I know that Alan and the writers' room, when they were structuring it, felt like Bill disappeared the end of book 1 and the beginning of book 2. And so they needed to try and find a way of keeping him present. So they decided that there needed to be a punishment for that. Now, I'll be honest, and I've never told you this, Deb, there was a part of me that was like, why are they changing it? Because I'd read those first 2 books. And I was like, what are they? No, because like, this is all so brilliantly structured, and he's done such an amazing job of taking this thing. Do they not trust me that I can deliver what's in the book? That they're having to invent something that doesn't exist. And now they're going to create this thing where he's got this appendage, you know, because I didn't know what it was going to be. I didn't know what you were going to turn into.
Yeah.
So I remember being sort of like, there being some sort of trepidation from me about what it was going to feel like and how it would change our story or whatever. But then I remember reading the script and going, okay, well, this is really good. This is good stuff. But then, and we hadn't met yet, I don't think, Deb. But then one of the lovely elements of this show that I think everybody will agree about is that come what may, we never didn't do a table read.
Yes.
Now, it's a fucking pain in the ass when you're doing a 14 or 15 hour day to go and have to spend your lunchtime doing a table read. But my God, it was fantastic. And I remember that table read going, ooh, this could be really this could be interesting. Maybe this isn't what I thought it was. Like, you know, Bill going out to pasture somehow, you know. But then we turned up for those 2 nights in that cathedral.
Junkyard.
Oh my God. And they built the Colosseum.
Yeah.
They built a Roman Colosseum out of scrap cars.
Yes.
And I watched it today, Deb, and it's so amazing.
You did, yeah. It's a great scene.
Oh my God. I mean,
it was a dream. I mean, I think, you know, what I'm hoping to be able to say to you now, because I think when I was a 22-year-old who had never been on screen and just didn't know what I was doing, and you all were gorgeous and scary and experienced, you know, this was really was my first job. I was Stephen Moyer right out of Lambda going, I'm going to do theater the rest of my life. And I don't, you know, that's it. And being able to work with you over those 7 years and have not only a mentor, but a champion in you, I think, as well. And who I think taught me every single time we worked how to be better at it, how to be a better craftsperson at the same time. And moments where we'd be doing a scene, and, you know, my take on acting has always been like, I'm in a documentary, like, you can capture it, you know, but you would say little things like, just at the end, just tip your chin up or something like that. And they'd get something, and that you just had that, you looking out for me. And I felt that. And, you know, some of that is you. Some of that, I'm sure, is me as Jessica looking at you and seeing Bill and taking on all of those feelings. But it meant so much to me, Stephen. And I will never, ever forget you for it.
You know how I feel because you're so fucking good.
Oh,
you're so fucking good. You know, and you know how many times on the red carpet I've said, like, she's the next Meryl Streep. You know how many times I've said that. I've said it like 40 times. Yeah. And I do remember thinking, there's a moment in that sequence, in that scene, where I glamour you and Jelko says, you know, you can't, there's no glamoring allowed. And I think it was the first time that you and I had sort of really looked each other in the eye. Yes. We'd spoken and we'd said hello, and, you know, we were sort of getting ready to do it and stuff, but we really looked each other in the eye, and Scott had brought us together and, you know, and made us like connect. Yeah. And there is a luminescence in you that is so extraordinary. It's in the whites of your eyes. I know it sounds bizarre, but it's in the whites of your eyes. And when you look, I've never seen you not in the moment, ever. Yeah. And you just fucking are like a firework on that screen. It's, for me, it just blows me away. And
coming to play wholeheartedly because there were players on the field, right? Like, this was not some phone it in weekly procedural, right? I mean, this was come ready to play because you will sink so fast. And I just remembering some of these scenes and reading these scenes and going like, how am I going to do this? And then going, okay, it's with Steve. It'll be all right.
Yeah, because you had big stuff. Because you went from that huge night to like waking up and having all those turns.
In the dirt, all the stuff. Then, but for me, I think, because for me, Bill is the most significant relationship in Jessica's life. And they had me running around and having romances and things like that. Yeah. But every single episode, I always said, what is this storyline, this connection with her parent? Because as someone who had Jessica spent her life with difficult parents and a traumatic experience, this is the one that needs to be repaired. Right. And Bill is going to be through whom she tries to figure out how to repair that part of herself. And so that every time the Bill and Jessica scenes were the most important ones for me.
I saw the famous recycling moment today, and
I love that so much.
It's so silly, and I was watching it going, you know, he's so earnest. he's so
he's so
desperately
earnest.
he's taken on this thing because he's trying so hard, even though he is his destiny is that he is there for an alternate reason to the reason that we think he's there. The ability to know what you're playing moving forward, but also with all this prehistory that's in the book and that you've created, that has built this person who's, you know, delivering that stuff. It's so rich, and it's so rare to get that richness.
Yes. And Bill feels, partially because of the writing, but I think still a lot due to you, really, mostly. He feels full to the brim from the first frame that you walk onto this show.
Yeah.
You just see, and you know, some of that's what Alan is talking about, that you see history in him. And you feel this history. And, you know, that is so hard. Again, like we said, you can't fake it. You just have to own it in a way.
Well, we all have moments. I wrote this down because I just thought this may be straight from the book. But we have all, over the years, met people who are so committed to our show, who will be listening to this show. And some of the fans were so extraordinarily passionate and so supportive of who we were as people as well as actors. And when I was doing Chicago, there was a lady who waited, and she came every night when I was doing it at the Hollywood Bowl, and she came every night. And she was from England, and she'd flown over especially to see it.
Wow. And
she had this whole speech tattooed on her back. I remember when I read it, going, fuck, that's good shit. You know, some of it's Alan and some of it's Charlene, and it's a mashup. But it's, I have no heartbeat. I have no need to breathe. There are no electrical impulses in my body. What animates you no longer animates me. You think that it's not magic that keeps you alive? Just because you understand the mechanics of how something works doesn't make it any less of a miracle, which is just another word for magic. We're all kept alive by magic, Sookie. My magic's just a little different from yours, that's all. And that, I remember reading that in the script and going,
yep.
Because our show, whether it was, you know, beautifully politically incorrect, beautifully provocative, funny, and dark, and twisted, and sexy, but if it was also one thing, it was, you know, a metaphor for so many different otherness in the world. And I think that's one of the reasons that people latched onto it, whether it be sexuality or race or, you know, choose your otherness, differentness. But that speech absolutely sums up what it is, whether you're religious or whether you're not religious. It's like, embrace the magic, embrace the essence of the magic of what we are, because we are here. And it's beautiful.
Well, and that's a podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Stephen Moyer.
Yes, and scene.
And scene.
Yeah, that speech.
Yeah, we highlighted it.
We talked about quite a bit because that just blew my socks off.
Yeah.
That just makes me weep every time. What a speech that you got to deliver so beautifully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you think of your, I mean, it's almost the most challenging question for you, your massive experience on this show. But your experience, are there 3 words that come to mind?
Family.
Exactly.
Magic. And fun. Whenever our show went off the rails and was fucking nuts, and there are times when it doesn't make any sense, and we're all
cop to that, yes.
And we're all Fonzie on the skis, and we're going that way, and the train is going that way, and we are going this way, and it's going to be episodes and episodes, and the shark's like even gone. The shark's disappeared as well, because it's like, I can't be in this show. Even at that point, it was never not fun. And just it just made me so happy watching it today. So thank you for making me watch it.
You know who's magic, Kristin? Stephen Moyer, my maker. I'm so glad that he agreed to speak with us and that he's the premiere, the kickoff of our second season. His stories, I mean, we'll let you all in right now. This was a 3-hour interview that somehow our producer Gabby whittled down because he is just chock full of heart.
That's it. He's all heart and humor and poignancy. He's just, you know, what an amazing, perfect, what a wonderful human being, but also the perfect Bill.
Perfect
you know?
Bill. And
we're very lucky.
There's something to, you know, we highlighted that section of his speech from season 1 when we, you know, were in that episode, but to hear him say it now, years later, with his natural accent, there's something still so riveting about him.
Kind of extra charming, right?
He's a hard man to say no to.
Yeah. He's a hard man to not listen to for 3 hours. And we would have happily sat there for another 3 and all day.
We'll
we
share,
got to for 7 years.
We will share more of that with you as the years go on and hopefully have him back as we get into the other sides of Bill. Next week on Truest Blood, our heroes are haunted by their pasts. It seems it's not that easy to move on when there's blood on your hands.
And we'll have director Michael Lehman on to discuss his work on the show. He's directed some of your favorite films and TV, including Heathers, The Truth About Cats and Dogs, The Comeback, West Wing, American Horror Story, and 15 episodes of True Blood.
You won't want to miss this one. So thanks for listening, Troupies. Subscribe and follow wherever you listen to your podcasts, and we'll see you next week.
Y'all come back now, you hear?
Got any burning questions you want answered on Truest Blood? Post them on any and all social media platforms using hashtag FangClubQuestions, and we may feature them on the show. That's hashtag FANGCLUBQUESTIONS. Truest Blood is produced by Safe Haven for HBO Max. Executive producers are Janina Gavankar, Kristen Bauer, and Deborah Ann Wool. Our producer is Gabrielle Gallon, and our audio producer is Christopher Wool. Our theme song was recorded just for this podcast by Jace Everett. Additional music was composed by Timo Chen. And remember, you can watch all of the original episodes of True Blood on HBO Max.